In 1942, the Japanese military seized control of large portions of the Solomon Islands, located northeast of Australia. At the same time, the Allied forces, led by the US Navy, began launching counteroffensives, focusing first on Guadalcanal, a crucial strategic location. During this period, while Japanese troops toiled to build defensive bases and airfields amid the sweltering jungle heat, they were unaware that they were not just heading into conflict with human enemies, but something far more terrifying. Local islanders had long passed down tales of enormous creatures said to live deep within the uncharted jungles and hidden caves. But even if someone tried to warn the Japanese, they likely wouldn't have listened. When the US Marines landed on Guadalcanal and pushed Japanese forces deeper inland, terrifying rumors began to spread. Japanese soldiers were being slaughtered in brutal ways, not by armed enemies, but by something beyond imagination. Something enormous, monstrous, and allegedly it was devouring them alive. Before 1941, World War II was a distant concern for the people of the Solomon Islands. But after the attack on Pearl Harbor, war quickly reached their shores. The British scrambled to evacuate civilians and move locals to safe areas in preparation for the imminent invasion. As expected, in May 1942, Japanese forces occupied the main islands and began constructing airfields on Guadalcanal and other military infrastructure, aiming to create a strategic buffer. This threatened communication lines between Australia and the US, prompting a swift American counterattack. On August 7, 1942, US Marines officially landed on the island. Previously, the Japanese had met little resistance, but they stirred deep resentment through their brutal treatment of locals and thousands of forced Korean laborers. Thanks to a network of coast watchers made up of civilians, farmers, and missionaries, the US obtained intelligence on the location of the Japanese airfield, leading to the first major counterstrike on Guadalcanal. These watchers knew the terrain intimately and avoided capture for years. After being driven from coastal areas, Japanese troops switched to guerrilla tactics, hiding in the dense jungle and launching ambushes. Forced into the island's unexplored interior, disturbing rumors began to surface. Japanese soldiers claimed to have encountered massive creatures, standing between 2.5 to 4.5 meters tall, with glowing red eyes and bodies covered in black, brown, or reddish hair. They wielded primitive weapons, stone clubs and enormous spears, and were unafraid to kill viciously, even eating their victims on the spot. Roars, heavy footfalls crushing the undergrowth, and blood-curdling screams echoed through the night, leaving Japanese soldiers terrified and sleepless. By day, they fought US troops. By night, they battled the forest demons. Survivors, if any, who were later captured by US forces likely recounted tales that seemed unbelievable. With samurai values instilled, surrender was shameful, yet death at the hands of giants was something they never expected. While the world might dismiss such tales as myth, many Solomon Islanders believe in the reality of these giants. Tribal communities here have histories of headhunting, living in tree forts to avoid predators, and ongoing intertribal wars. Archaeologist Nicholas Cox once visited the islands in search of WWII relics and was told many strange stories by locals. Some even insisted the creatures still exist today. One local man, Ishmael, claimed to be a descendant of these giants, saying his ancestor was a legendary warrior. Many believe they are related to the Nephilim mentioned in the Bible, beings born of humans and fallen angels. The documentation about Mango and the existence of giants in the Solomon Islands gained global attention when it was published in a book titled The Mysteries of the Solomon Islands: Accounts of Giants and UFOs in the Solomon Islands. Author Marius Boirayon began to believe that one of the main reasons the population of the Solomon Islands was significantly smaller than expected was because, for over 5,000 years, the giants on the islands had treated humans as food, preventing the local people from ever having a chance to reproduce. He also suggested that based on his research, the reason the giants eventually stopped hunting the islanders was due to a combination of 3 factors: a war between giant tribes that occurred centuries ago, the appearance of fire. Sailors once described seeing dozens of glowing orbs flying in a diamond formation in the sky above their ships during the invasion of Guadalcanal. They believed these might have been a new type of Japanese weapon. The troops prepared for defense, but the UFOs eventually vanished without incident and were gradually forgotten as the invasion continued. Regarding the existence of giants, there was another intriguing account attributed to Boirayon during his time on the island. On Guadalcanal, he was shocked to return to a previous location and discover that a giant sword had disappeared. Even more astonishing were human-like footprints, each 3 to 4 meters long, found in the mud surrounding the spot where the blade had once stood. After searching the nearby area, the blade was found about 100 meters away on the side of a small hill. Amazed, they realized that something with very large feet seemed to have picked up the sword and moved it, possibly even thrown it. Many dense forests on the islands, if the stories are true and connected to other giant-like creatures worldwide, make it unsurprising that locals describe the Kakamora as resembling creatures like Bigfoot. Foul-smelling, hairy, with sharp claws, and notably cannibalistic. They were said to often come to villages at dusk to steal fruit from gardens or guard huts. Other traits of the Kakamora make it hard to dismiss as mere legend or undiscovered animal. Nicholas Cox also pointed out that, from an anthropological perspective, 2 such different creatures as the giants and Kakamora could not coexist in the same area without one driving the other to extinction. Therefore, he reasoned that the smaller Kakamora, typically around 1.2 to 1.5 meters tall, were likely the beings people had actually encountered. Regarding the involvement of giants in the Japanese occupation of Guadalcanal during World War II, Marius Boirayon at least acknowledged one mystery that puzzled American forces after landing. The Japanese had spent months preparing for a U.S. counterattack, yet when the Marines landed at Red Beach on August 7th, they were surprised to find no resistance. There were no casualties during the landing, as they moved further inland. According to historical records, aside from some Japanese soldiers in the Guadalcanal occupation force who were killed and eaten by the giants, they may also have encountered a type of warrior that was half human, half lizard. When news of this reached Japanese headquarters, they decided to abandon the island. That is why no trace of Japanese forces was found when the Allies arrived at Guadalcanal. These underground creatures are also said to have appeared in various other parts of the world, no less frightening than the demonic beings described by some U.S. soldiers during the Vietnam War. Concerning these beings, Marius once visited a Japanese war memorial in Guadalcanal and recounted it in his book. The centerpiece of the memorial was a large concrete geometric statue. In another section stood a bronze statue of a man, left behind because it was too heavy to carry. To this day, the statue has not been returned due to fears it might be stolen again and is believed to be hidden somewhere on the island. Back to the Japanese side of the story. Why didn't they send reinforcements to hold on to an island they didn't want to lose? The simple truth is that the Japanese only had a few hundred troops on the island before the invasion, and that was a serious miscalculation. An article titled "Kakamura Comes Home" is a tribute to a respected doctor who spent most of his life on Makira Island with the Melanesian people. He arrived on the island in 1903 as a missionary teacher. The article states that Makira was one of the islands once notorious for cannibalism. During his time on the island, Dr. Fox was adopted by the Arosi tribe and given a new name. It appears that during World War II, the people living on Mal Island were still a wild tribe deep in the jungle and instilled fear in the Japanese. So perhaps the Japanese soldiers were not terrified by giants, but by violent natives. And the tales of man-eating giants may have been exaggerated from that. Or in support of the documented existence of fearsome, hairy beings, it could have been a combination of unintelligible language, spears, nets used for capturing people, and a diet including seeds, fruits, fish, and even human flesh. All these were mentioned in Durforth's research, compiled from centuries of documentation alongside interviews with Melanesians from various islands in the Solomon chain. This article suggests that Dr. Fox may have been the first to identify them. As Nicholas Cox speculated, it seems unreasonable for a frequently cited ape-like biped to be the same species as the 2.5 to 4.5 meter tall giants, which are rarely seen. Thus, the smaller Kakamura creatures, coupled with hostile locals, may be the true origin of the giant legends, at least from the Japanese perspective. Nonetheless, the existence cannot be denied. Native Americans came from Asia by crossing what was once a land bridge. More recently, archaeological evidence and 20th century press reports indicate that the natives were not the only beings to have crossed. Although far from the Solomon Islands, many Native American tribes also have terrifying legends about encounters with giants in both Central and North America. Cannibalistic beings. There are even stories of the Mexican army unearthing giant skeletons, and many reports of giant human skeletons excavated in Central and North America, which are connected to tribal legends of ancient battles fought against giants. Very bizarre. We'll get into that later, but while researching, this story came up. And since I had never heard of it before, it really caught my attention. I know there are a lot of theories out there, from interdimensional to extraterrestrial and beyond, all of which only add to the mystery. Maybe one day we'll have a clearer understanding of these things. But for now, it's fascinating to hear your thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment, or reach out to me directly via email if you'd like to connect.